All right, guys. Well, here we are. I have fucking the worst migraine right now, and I have to interview Mickey Avalon's mom. I was supposed to do that. I don't know, a couple hours ago. My head's like just been killing me. I've been laying down, like trying to like cover my eyes so I don't have to see the light, and then I stuck a frozen hot dog up my ass, which made me cough. Now I'm here. What do people said shit like that? Yeah, I'm into holistic hot dog prostate stimulation. It's better than Big Farm, homeboy. You know, people talk like that. It's like Jeff, who wears sandals and tells me about the benefits of holistic medicine, which I'm not disputing in any way. Big Farm is a complete predatory industry. They're crazy. They're like extorting old people. Doctors are like, well, you need this heart medication or, well, you'll die. Old people are like, okay, I'll go to the doctor. And they go to the doctor and they're like, yeah, it's like $1,500 a month, more than your mortgage, or you'll die. 1,500, bitch. No, Medicaid covers that, but I don't know. There is a point to this. But who cares? Who cares about shit like that? Fuck them. At least it's not me. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know. I'm becoming like, lately I've really been thinking about getting rid of social media. I'm not talking about YouTube. Well, man, I'm pretty close to just being completely done with YouTube. Maybe just being like exclusively on Patreon. I spend a lot of time on Facebook. That's like where I hang out. And Facebook is like the ghetto of social media. You ever notice that? People are like spanging on there. People ask for likes. Press like if you like yellow labs. It's like, what? What the fuck? Or, do you ever like do those dumb games where it's like, see what you look like in 2070? You're like, oh my god, this is so fun. And then you put like your photo on there. And it's like you, but you have like an astronaut costume on. And you're like, damn. It's pretty informative, you know? And there's a lot of shit like that. It's like, what would your porn name be? And there's like a list. It's like, if your first letter is R and your last name is L, you'd be Foxy Bitch. And then you share it and everybody like laughs. They're like, oh, it's so you. And you're like, wow. And you wonder why people are so stupid. You know? And then people will share this like the most baseless shit. Everybody fights about politics. Nobody's happy. You know? How often do you see posts where people are like, you know what? I really love everybody on this list. Nobody says shit like that. It's memes about politics, about chomos. That's where we're at. Chomos and pedophiles and politicians and COVID. COVID's not real. You know, you got people that are saying that. And then, like, you don't see them online anymore and you find out they died from COVID. Yeah. I actually do know someone that died in the beginning from COVID. And then one of my author friends, Tom Pitts, who I really like. If you guys ever want to read some good stories about gay prostitutes in San Francisco, I swear that's what he wrote a book about. It's called Hustle. I really liked it, though. I mean, I didn't really like the gay stuff. There was some pretty hardcore gay stuff, too. There was, like, some guy, like, wearing a bib, and then dudes would, like, beat off on his face. And I was reading this, I was like, I like this book. And I, like, gave it to my girlfriend at the time. She's like, oh, my God, me too. I love bibs. And I'm like, yeah, all right. That checks the fuck out. And sorry for the gum. I know there's always going to be a commenter that's like, dude, can you not chew gum, you disrespectful fuck? Like sitting there, there's like butter on your hands. You're like, you know, oh, dude, Ryan, post another video. And then you like gather your family. You have like some 11-year-old with braces that's they're like, that guy's a loser. Somebody came and talked to us about drugs and that guy looks just like him. He's a fucking drug guy. that same person, like 4 years from now, will be smoking meth out of a pookie, getting butt fucked by some paisa that goes to the high school. It's not even in high school, but they're like short, so they look like they're in high school. They're like in like an oversized dress shirt and like a fedora hat and like glasses with a little fake mustache and nose. But like everybody buys it. They're like, oh yeah, that guy goes here. It's totally normal. Some ET looking paisa. There's just butt fucking chicks like giving them meth. No? Oh, you didn't go to high school on Earth? Okay. No, I'm just kidding. My headache's going away. Now I'm in my zone. I'm here to entertain you, entertain myself, get transported back into the, the time periods that I kind of want to revisit. Yeah. And just, I really, I don't know. I haven't been reading the comments. I don't know if people are like, fuck this guy and fuck this storyline. But, I think I'm going to get back to prison soon now. Probably like, this might be the last video. I always say that. And then I figure out I remember stuff, If I was like an organized guy, could you imagine? I'd like outline I'd remember them, I'd outline them, I'd refine them, all that. But I'm not. Just a fuck up, man. I sent a package to somebody. I don't even want to say who. It wasn't even something that somebody bought. I was just hooking somebody up with something. Shit cost me probably like $200 altogether. No idea where it went. Don't have a tracking number. I hate shit like that, I'm not microdosing anymore. I'm going on like a sober trip now where I'm just going to smoke pot at night, but no psychedelics anymore. Like I kind of got my uses out of them. And then I went through depression, but I don't want that stuff. I don't want anything illegal in my life anymore at all. I don't want any reason to be taken away from my kid. There's nothing that's worth that to me. Except for a prostitute. No, I'm just kidding. I can't even make prostitute humor. I'm a convicted pimp. You know how hard that is? Thank God that I have a chick and that I'm going to marry her and I'm going to have we're trying to have another kid right now, which is cool because we get to practice. I'm like, come on, babe. I heard if we do anal too, that it increases the chances. She's like, okay, fuck me in the butt. I'm like, all right. How disrespect. Nico will watch these one day. He'll watch my supplementary fucking Patreon material. He's like, oh my God. Dad's fucking disgusting. Can't believe he talks to mom like that. What was I going to say though? There's one more thing. I'm getting back to the prison line. Definitely get back to wrap up Florida. What really happened. There's just so much shit. And I'm glad that I did it this way because now I have more stuff to focus on and I can kind of scatter it around. But I really do want to get more. Oh yeah. Okay. Now I know. I tell you the same shit every time, but I finished another album. Honestly, you guys I've already uploaded the Mike Virgin MP3. There is one extra thing on there and I love it. Proud of it. I'm like, yeah, I got to put that on there. It's a famous person that you guys don't know that I have any association with. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised by it. I'll probably sell it for, I don't know, $5 or something. I think I'm going to charge 10 for it. It's an hour and a half long MP3 and there's one original skit. The rest of it is, the Mike Virgin story that you guys have already heard. It's been edited and polished and stuff, but I don't want you guys, you Patreon guys that have access to that story for free to think that in any way, I'm trying to double dip on that story or whatever. But if you want to support me, I'm going to use that money to help put Karina through school right now. And that's getting pretty expensive. So that's kind of why I'm doing it. I think I'm going to sell it for like $5. Personally, I really like what I put in there, like the bonus skit, kind of like just thrown in there randomly, but it's pretty classic. I think you guys like it. All right, let's get into the story. Sorry that I've been separating the monologues from the actual stories, but you can probably see that I was like in a negative space, and now I'm like really getting positive again. I have a frozen hot dog in my ass right now, just fucking wiggling it around. So where we had left off last time, I think I'd started doing like the Spike TV stuff. It was crazy because I went from, you get like, really think about it. I had no money. You know, there was a period there where the only hustle I had was like, Mom, can I have $60? I'm sick off heroin. She's like, okay. And she just give it to me. My mom was cool like that, you know? Not cool in like the enabling sense, but cool that she loved me unconditionally and she didn't want me to suffer, you know? And like, there's people that'll never understand that. The older I get, the more I see that people are just judgmental, you know? And usually like when you're judging someone, it's because you're just so fucking miserable, you know? It's like, do you put your family first and try to make the world a better place. If we all did that, we'd probably not wear clothes anymore. And then when we were happy, we'd just either get our dick sucked or suck a dick. Whatever makes you happier. Me, personally, I get my dick sucked. Unless I was on meth. I'd be sucking lots of dicks. In a row. Like 7. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm so twat. So I went from like having no money to like really having a lot of money because I was selling drugs and I was making money legally from my Spike Media empire. Like a side hustle. But eventually, I mean, I was making like $3,500, $4,000 sometimes in a week. And then on top of that, I was making a lot of money selling Molly. I think maybe we ended the last episode where I'd gone to rehab in Pasadena. I don't know if I'd ever told you guys that story, but it's pretty shitty, you know? Like I cheated, then I got cheated on when I came home, and I'd met my connection while I was down there. And I think I covered that stuff and how I made $500,000 in a year. But this series is more about Paul. And you're probably like, you have not mentioned Paul for like 4 videos. But all this other stuff's important for Paul. So basically what ends up happening is, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I'll get to this. So Jeff, I end up renting this house. This house is on the beach. This is the same house that's in that raw footage clips that I'd posted from the documentary. The one that Stephen Gabriel had shot a long time ago. Remember, I'm like, I have track marks. I'm like, that's what happens when you listen to too much Tupac. I thought I was really cool, and I wasn't. I had Hep C. It was tragic. But Jeff lived there, and I had like these grandiose delusions. And the reason that I had those delusions is because Adam McGinnis was feeding that shit to me. He was pretty much drinking all the time, and he'd call me and be like, do you not realize what I can do for you? I'm like, dude, first of all, you sound black. Second of all, you sound melodic. Third of all, you sound kind of like Eddie Murphy. And it's funny when you're not even meaning to be. But he would get drunk and talk like that, like really like high pitched, like a black guy. It was fucking odd because he was this like kind of clean cut, good looking white guy. Got lots of girls and told me all the time how much I stunk. He's like, dude, you smell like shit. I'm like, oh. And I had zits too. Stinky and pimply. And I didn't shave my dick back then. Sometimes I didn't even wipe my ass. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know why. I think it was depression. I was just like optimistic. I'd shit and then just be like, meh. Probably won't make any marks. Boy, was I wrong. And my boxers always stunk. And I always had these what. My mom, for the longest time, got me these like little, they were like Christmas themed boxers. I don't even know where the fuck do you get stuff like that? She probably had a special order from a catalog. But it'd have like snowmen and like, sometimes it had like the Star of David on it, but I wasn't Jewish, but like I'd rock them anyway. It just had like the Star of David like by the like slit. It was the weirdest shit ever. And they always had shit stains on them. So we lived at this house, and I just started really selling a lot of drugs, smoking a lot of crack. You guys know the deal. And Jeff rented a room. So it was like a 3-bedroom house. One of the rooms pretty much I only used to jerk off when Jenny and I were fighting. I think we'd planned on growing weed there. I think we may have even done that. But then Jeff lived in this room on like the far right, and we had our master room, is what we called it. This was a crack house. It felt weird calling, well, meet me in the master bedroom, you know, but it was just absurd. Her and I would do a lot of drugs and watch a lot of pornography. And that's pretty much all we did. We had a safe full of drugs and we sold it. And Jeff lived there. So, you know, back in that time, I was selling Molly. And then I started selling heroin because I met that Paiso when I had gone to rehab on Skid Row. And I had this friend that lived in Northern California that was probably like the biggest coke dealer that I've ever known. You know, he'd sell like 5 keys at a time, stuff like that. But, you know, kilo back then was going for like 20 grand. He'd have $100,000 worth of cocaine on him. It'd be like in his backpack. I'd be like, don't you ever worry that you might get busted? He'd be like, no, man. No. I got money. Guys with money don't go to jail. One day that guy disappeared. I never saw him again. And he used to call me and he used to say, hey, you know, I have a key on me. I want to go out partying. Can I leave it at your house? And so he would do that. And I'd be like, yeah, I promise I won't touch it. And then like he'd like leave and I'd like have like my arm around Jenny and we'd like wave. It was like some corny movie shit. All right, man. Have a good one. We got it. You know, like we're watching the house, our own house. And then we'd like look at each other. It kind of felt like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, you know, like when we realized that the coke dealer's not there, but we had this key. We'd start like jumping up and down on the bed and just be all excited. And we just did what seemed like unlimited amounts of cocaine. He never even seemed to notice. He would just like come back. There'd be like an ounce missing and just be like, oh, thanks. Give us like $100 bill and take off. So like at the end of that, he had left a key with us. And that was, like I said, it was really, really common for him to do that. He also, I think he left 3 boats of ecstasy. So a boat of ecstasy is 1,000 pills. It typically costs like $700. So you're getting the pills for like 70 cents a piece. Or, you know, sometimes it's like $1, $1.50. I don't know. Nowadays, I hear kids paying just outrageous. They're like, yeah, I get a boat for, you know, $2,000 or something. What the fuck? Ow. So he left this stuff at our house. And like I said, it was typical. We started dipping into it. Now, at the time, I was smoking like $600 worth of crack a day. And I wasn't buying crack. I was buying powder, 1/8 ball at a time, putting it on a metallic salad spoon, going to the kitchen, throwing baking soda on it, sizzling it up, cooking rock, putting it in a straight shooter, shooting it, and then peeking out blinds, shit like that. $600 worth a day. That is not an exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. You can ask Jeff, and he'll always say that when I say stuff like that I'm probably minimizing it. I just don't remember how ridiculous it was. That's what I remember. I remember my coke dealer saying that. He's like, man, you smoke $600 worth a day. And he would only sell them to me in 8 balls. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know why. You don't want me to get a deal. And I was getting a ball for like $80, $60 or $80, like very cheap. And I knew this. And this is not the coke dealer that left the kilo at my house. This is a whole different guy that lived like a few blocks away from me. So when this guy, I want to say his name because I don't ever know what happened to him. Let's just call him Robbie. So when Robbie left this kilo at my house, we start dipping into it, and it was unlike the $600 worth a day, because with that, at least, maybe that's why the dude did it, is because at least it would break up the time in between, because I just couldn't. I mean, if it's up to me, I would never stop smoking crack. I would just smoke it. And I'm like neglecting all of my opportunity, or all of my responsibilities as a drug dealer. I'm not even selling, like, people are blowing my phone up and I'm just like turning it off because I just want to smoke crack. So by this guy only selling me 8-balls, it would give me these like short intervals of time that I could take care of my responsibilities, which was like delivering drugs to people so I could keep this lifestyle going. So I start smoking crack out of this kilo. I don't know how much I do, but it's like significant, right? And this guy, Robbie, never comes back. Never see him again. You know, he just disappears. On this day, I'm sure he got busted or something. Who knows what happened to him, but we never saw him again. So we just have this kilo basically for free. And now I don't have those little short bursts of like time to get my responsibilities done. And also time just to not be smoking crack. Like when you smoke it constantly, see, most people don't experience that with crack because you run out. I mean, like, you can have an ounce and that's like a lot of crack, but when you have 1,000 grams of it, just never stop. You know, I was going hard, you know, just tripping out. And what ended up happening is I stayed up for days, just paranoid. And I was looking over at this building across the street, and I was like convinced that there are these shadows fucking. I didn't even think they were people. I thought they were people's shadows that had their souls in them that were fucking. And I wanted to see it. Like, it was paranoia and like perversion at the same time. And I was like telling Jeff about it. Like, hey man, come here. Do you see the same shadows fucking that I do? Jeff is the kind of guy that would just agree with me because he wanted all the free like, I was like giving him so many free drugs. So, you know, no, it's like kind of like when you're around like a really famous person, there's like all these yes men around them. Like, they'll do anything they say. They laugh at all of their jokes. They'll say like the stupidest shit. Like, everyone's like, oh man, you're funny. And you're like looking at it like, geez, that must be weird to have that. Where just everybody's just sucking you off all the time. People are in line to suck you off. There's like some like skinny like Ethiopian guy in line. You're like, hey, what's that guy with the towel from Ethiopia doing? And they're like, I don't know. Once in a while he makes the cut. And so I'd be like, Jeff, do you see the shadow people fucking? He'd be like, of course I do. I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. And what that would do is it would fuel my delusions. So I stay up for like, and you know, when I say I'm looking out the window looking at shadow people, I'm thinking about it for like 9 hours in a row. And then I get horny and I'll jerk off, but I won't even stop looking. I'll just be like, I just cannot stop looking. Convinced these shadow people, it's like, whoa, couple more minutes and we'll see penetration, my man. And Jeff's just like, can I have more? And I'm like, yeah. I'm just staring. This is like really the kind of stuff that I was doing. So like after a certain point, I was up for so long that I don't know, I went into some like almost like hallucinogenic psychosis. And I remember, you know, going into the bathroom and just drinking shampoo and vomiting. Like, just, you can't drink shampoo. It induces vomiting. I drank like a whole bottle. I think I thought it was milk or something. I was just like tripping the fuck out. Like, Jenny ended up coming in and I was like on my back, just like vomit spewing out of me. You know, there was like puddles of this like acidic yellow puke all over me. And I was like pretty much having seizures. And she was, all right, man. That's it with the cocaine. No more cocaine. Just like, you know, and somehow I was able to just kind of stop doing it, you know? I mean, that was ultimately like what she had, like an almost intervention with me, you know, like demanding that I stop. And the fact that I cheated on her in rehab, like, she always used that against me. So just to try to keep peace, I usually try to do what she said. So I stopped. Okay, around this time, so she had epilepsy. And because she had epilepsy, this is back in 2007, you couldn't get health insurance because of pre-existing conditions. You were precluded from getting health insurance. Back in the day, if you had epilepsy and you like called Anthem Blue Cross, you're like, yeah, I'm trying to get health insurance. And they would be like, ha, 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 ha. No, you have a pre-existing condition, you're a bitch. All right. And then like the Ethiopian dude with the towel calls, they're like, sure thing, buddy. He's like, oh, thank you. So because she couldn't get health insurance, she had like real epilepsy where she'd like start having seizures out of nowhere. Nothing really brought them on. They were very scary. Remember the first time I saw her do it, it made me cry because I was like really scared that she was hurt. I don't know. I didn't really know much. I was also smoking like $600 worth of crack, so I was probably more emotional than the average person gets about stuff like that. But she was just, I remember she talking to me and she just went, and it looked like she was like hallucinating, and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? And she just like, and like fell into the couch. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember calling my, it was like 6 a.m. too. And I called my dad. I was like, oh my God, Jenny's dead. And my dad's like, Ryan, you're going to have to file some sort of insurance claim. I'm like, dude, Jenny's dead. He's like, Ryan, be sure to file an insurance claim. I must go to bed now. And he like hung up. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what if she really was dead? And then I'd find out, that she was epileptic and it was really like kind of out of her control. She was supposed to be taking these anti-seizure medications and she just simply couldn't get them because she was precluded from getting health insurance and she couldn't cover it herself. The bills were just ridiculous. Even though we were drug dealers, they were still like just out of control. We'd like go to the hospital and get bills for like 12 grand, shit like that, We're like, what? So we just stopped going. And the one thing that we found is that marijuana had helped her. I mean, I didn't find that out with her. I mean, she'd been smoking for years because of that very reason. So because I was selling all these different drugs, I was selling coke, I was selling heroin, I was selling Molly. I didn't sell much coke, but whatever. I did once in a while. Mostly Molly, heroin, mushrooms, acid, but major quantities, 1,000 vials at a time, shit like that, like really like kind of like pretty like major. I mean, I never really knew people that were selling it like that. I just had a really good connection. And occasionally I'd vend to the clubs. I became a vendor. I get like a 10-pack, I think back then for like 27,000 for like 10 pounds of like not that good a bud these days. I mean, for the rest of the country, it'd probably be considered very good, but like get like 10 pounds of train wreck for like 2,700, and then I could take them to the clubs and sell them for 3,000 all the way up. With 10 pounds for $30,000. So I'd make my little $3,000 profit, and I did that periodically. It was whatever. I mean, that's like what a lot of people make in a month, and I'd make that in a day. And just not something that I really pursued, but I did it enough. So one day, I may have told this story, but this leads up to Paul at this point. So one day, Jenny runs out of weed. It's like 5 a.m. And she wakes me up and she's like, hey, I'm out of weed. I was like, what? Because whenever we would vend, like usually like people that gave me weed to sell, so a lot of that was like when you're selling drugs on a bigger level, when you're selling kilos, when you're selling pounds of like hard drugs, weed is kind of just, people will come to you and give you weight just because they know that you have a market for it. Someone will come bring me 10, 30 pounds of like pretty high-end weed and they know that I'm going to sell it. Back then the dispensaries were open, so I could go, like I'd go to the dispensaries, I'd go to the front receptionist, I'd say, hey, I have a 10-pack of train wreck in my car. Cool. Go around to the back, sit in my car, and armed security would come escort me from the car into the back. They'd smell it, make sure there's not mold in it. If they wanted to purchase it, they'd cash you out right there and then, and that was that. There was no paper trail. It was just a straight-up cash transaction. And that was Vending. And that was the Wild West. That was the gold rush of the mid-2000s in Southern California. It was a huge, booming industry. And I wasn't huge in it, but like I said, occasionally, just because I was selling other drugs, people would bring me 10 packs, 20 packs, 30 packs. Got a 100 pack before, stuff like that. It's called a box. And so she had woken me up in the middle of the night, or early in the morning, and told me we didn't have weed, which was weird because we usually get like an extra pound if we sold a pack, like, you know, when we're giving them the money, like say the 10 pack, giving it to me for 27. I'd give the people 27,000. They'd usually shoot me a free pound after, just like a token of appreciation. And that was like for personal use, or I could sell it, whatever. And we usually had like significant amounts of herb, you know, usually had like 2-3 pounds laying around. You know, when you're selling drugs, it's just how it is. You know, you'll have like 300 Xanax in some bag that you're like, where'd this come from? You know, it's just random shit you accumulate over time. So she woke me up and I was like, I don't know. We gotta have weed. I went back to sleep. She's like, okay, I'll find some. So then I wake up at like, probably like 7. Jeff had to go to work at 8. And she was still freaking out, you know, when I woke up. And she's like, oh my God, like, we don't have any, and, you know, can you go get more? And it was like too early. I don't think the dispensary opened till like 11 a.m. Like, they had like weird hours like that. So I was like, well, I bet Jeff has some, you know, because he was our roommate, and Jeff smoked tough. I mean, he smoked all day, every day, and he definitely would do the wake and bake shit before he went to work construction. So I go to him and I'm like, hey, do you have any of our bud? Or do you have any bud, period? And he was like, nah, I don't have anything right now. I was like, okay. So he ends up going to work. Now, after he goes to work, like 10 minutes later, Jenny's like, hey, it fucking reeks of herb up here. And I think that Jeff was smoking in his room, like on the down low, not wanting to share, even though I'm epileptic and I need it. He could have given me like a little bong rip or something. And so I usually keep my friends, you know, I'm not the kind of guy that goes like snooping in people's stuff. Like I don't look through Karina's phone, none of that. I've gone through periods like that with women, but man, it's been a long time since I've been like that. I'm definitely not like that with her now. I really don't. It's like, whatever. You're going to cheat, you're going to cheat. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to like, when you accuse someone, they're like, this dude's always accusing me. I'm just going to suck that dick I always wanted to suck. Then you get in a fight, they're like, I sucked Booby's dick. Booby comes back for sure. So I smell weed in his room, and I start looking through stuff, and sure enough, I find an ounce of our weed. Might have even been more than that. I want to say it might have been a pound. I forget. Like either an ounce or a pound. Somewhere in there. I don't know. It's all the same shit back then. I was like, what the fuck? And yes, it was like still hazy, and there was obvious that he had smoked, like taken a fat rip before he got to work. And I was mad. You know? This is probably before I quit smoking crack, because I remember being cracked out. I had a .32 Cobra, my little military police gun that I was very proud of. I waited for him to get home, and I got the gun, and I walked up to him, and I made him open his mouth, and I stuck the gun in his mouth. I was like, suck on it, bitch. I was like Emil Hirsch and Alpha Dog. I was like, suck on that, you fucking bitch. It wasn't loaded, but still, like, that's a pretty ugly thing to do to, like, your best friend. And I pulled the hammer, you know, I clicked the hammer back or whatever. And I told him I was going to kill him. I mean, in fact, he shouldn't get the fuck out of there because he had betrayed me and stolen from me. How could you do that to me? And he was crying. Tears were streaming down his face while there was a gun in his mouth. And I was being, you know, I was saying every mean thing I could think of, like really like personal stuff that I won't even go into, but I was like making him suck it. And then I was like, fucking his mouth. Well, no, I wasn't doing that. But I did have the gun in his mouth, and he was crying. And he's petrified. He was shaking. And that is one of my bigger regrets in life, that I did that, because I really care about him. He's my best friend. And that was definitely the drugs. There's the drugs and watching way too many movies. I was wearing like a suit and tie. I was not doing that, but I did have the gun in his mouth. So I pretty much made him leave. I said, "You're gone. Strikeout. No good. No play." And he's like, "Shut the fuck up, dude." And he just went up to his room. He packed, and I didn't see him again for years. And that was our falling out. Now, we had tickets to go to Burning Man. Burning Man, in case you've been living on like the moon for the last 30 years or something, is a big festival in Nevada. It's in a place I think called Blackstone or some shit. Some desert wasteland in Nevada. And it's an art festival. And that's the point of it. People make these like really crazy, big, like almost like parade floats and like really like big, extravagant art, right? The whole point of Burning Man is to be around eccentric people, be around art. That's what it's supposed to be about. But as a pimply little crackhead, I heard that naked people and drugs. I was like, I'm there. So all I care about is nudity and drugs. Let's go. So we had planned to go there. You know, I had money back then, whatever. At that point, I was still doing stuff for Adam and Spike, but, you know, he had figured out that I was selling him fake clips. So I went back to trying to kind of track down real stuff again from police departments, but I wasn't really having luck with that. So I'm almost positive that I told you guys the story about when I flew to Florida to stay with my friend that I'd done acid with in jail. I went out there with the purpose of picking wild mushrooms in fields. Then I was going to put them in brownies, and I was going to take them to Burning Man to sell. It's like I don't know. It was like a dream that this guy had pitched to me. Yeah, man, you can come out here. He lived in a place called Bradenton, Florida. And supposedly he lived right by these fields where you could pick mushrooms wildly. Now, mushrooms are seasonal, and sometimes they can be pretty hard to get in California. You know, that's why, like, anytime I come across mushrooms, I buy, like, as many as possible. An ounce of it's like $100, $150. It's not, you know, and it's a lot. You don't really need an eighth to trip, you know? So that was the whole plan, and I'd gone out there, and if I didn't tell you guys that story, please tell me, because it's a long story, it's a pretty good story, but I can clearly remember telling that story at some point. Maybe not, but yeah, I'd gone out there, and it just went all bad. And before I had gone to do that, because Burning Man was coming up, so the reason I was going out to Florida was to pick the mushrooms so that I could go to Burning Man with a bunch of drugs that I hadn't paid for. Just free shit that I'd picked, put into brownies, and it's a barter system there. So it wasn't even that I was trying to make money. It was more that I was trying to trade my mushroom brownies for like all the weird exotic drugs that they would have there. You know, peyote, whatever it was. And then it went all bad there. And Jeff was supposed to go to Burning Man. You know, that was like the whole plan. It was coming up. It's like at the end of August. So around that time, I'd come up with the idea for Copbusters, like probably before I'd gone to Florida. I want to say that all of that was going on before I'd gone to Florida. I was only there for like 2 weeks or something. And I came up with the idea to come up with a show. It would be like Cops, but we get crooked cops in trouble. And then we pop out and we're like, "You're on Copbusters, bitch, pig, tuh," you know? Some really like irreverent, like anarchistic shit. That's when I met Gabriel. That's when that video footage was made. You know, you guys have seen footage of me trying to make Copbusters. But like the irony of it is I was so strung out on heroin that, you know, I was like puking in between when we were like shooting the videos. It was just absurd. Like watching that footage is crazy. I'm so strung out. I'm like, all right, do this, and then do that. Like the people I'd be shooting would be like, well, what's this and what's that? And I'd be like, don't argue with the director, bro. And then I would just like fall over. The footage that I have certainly reflects what I'm talking about. And I'd be like puking in front of like, I'd be like filming the shit in like a public street, and I'd just be like puking, and people would be like, is he all right? And you know, Jenny would be like, yeah, he just has acne. And they're like, oh, okay. So Gabriel came up to do the Copbusters pilot. I'd pitched the idea to Adam and Spike. They loved it and wanted to make it happen. So I started having this like grandiose, like this was it. Copbusters was going to make me. Finally, I figured out I was going to be like Ashton Kutcher. Who the fuck wants to be that guy? I did. I was like, I want to be like Ashton. Shut the fuck up, dogs. Animal lover. So I contacted Paul. Now, Paul, at this point, had started dating a girl named Chelsea, who later had a heart attack. But she was this girl, I don't know, she was like maybe a couple years younger than Paul. Paul was 3 years older than me. And she was like probably like my age. And he had met her... don't really remember how or what or how he even knew this person, but he was like really into her, and he told me that. And so he had found this gig living up in Monterey, where he's from, where he was basically the graveyard shift at a motel. So he'd like sit at the counter and he'd book rooms for people. And he was like also the guy that you call in like the middle of the night and like bitch about people being loud or whatever. It was a motel. It wasn't like a super nice place. They didn't pay him, but in return for him doing the graveyard shift, they'd give him a room. So him and Chelsea lived in this motel like permanently, right? And him and I like had started talking again a lot right around the time that I was working with Spike, because he thought that was really cool that I had like manipulated that situation and kind of gotten a gig out of it. And he wanted to do something with it as well. So he was like up there living at this motel. I don't know how, to this day, I've never asked him. I should have when he was alive. I should have asked him how they got money, because they were addicted to crack. Crack's like really expensive. There's this whole like misconception that crack is cheap. Crack is the most expensive drug ever. It's like leasing a fucking Lamborghini. But yet, instead of making monthly payments, you make payments every like 10 minutes. Like, I need more. And you like give the crack dealer like $600. People suck dick for crack. That's the one drug that it's very common. You know, heroin addicts are like, they'll let a dude suck them off. And they'll always say it was shame. They're like, yeah, I let a man give me oral once for heroin. I'm like, okay, I get it. I've been dope sick. No one's ever offered me that, but I get it. But then crackheads, they'll actually say it. Like, you know, got these cheeseburgers. That's real shit. You'll hear it. I'll be on Skid Row and I'll see like some college kid. He's wearing like a UCLA sweatshirt. And he'll like be all bug-eyed and he'll just come up and he'll be like, hey man, you think there's any drug dealers that would let me suck their dick for crack? Just the way they say, you know, they're serious. And you're like, you know, it's actually a hobby of me to keep track of which drug dealers are taking blowjobs for payment, but I can't help you. They're like, oh, yeah. Me neither. And they'd like rip their UCLA hoodie on and they'd be like half cyborg, programmed just to suck off crack dealers. Sorry. I go off on some weird places. So I told Paul, you know, I was all like hyped up about this gig doing Copbusters. Positive that I was going to make it. I mean, dude, I had a major network telling me that they were basically going to greenlight the show. I just had to get my shit together. They liked the pilot that we had made. They wanted me to like film an entire episode, and they were going to give me some funding for it. So I had a deal if I just did it. Now Gabriel had already like flied the coop on me. According to him, I threatened him with like the Mexican mafia or some shit. I don't know. He always says that, and I don't know what in the hell he's talking about. But that's the story he tells everybody, that I like threatened to have him killed by the Mexican mafia. I didn't even know anybody in the Mexican mafia. You know, I don't even know if I knew anyone that was Mexican. I think like my parents had like a gardening crew. Those were like the only Hispanic people I knew. I couldn't call, like, hey man, I need backup, and they like cruise up in their gardening truck, and they don't even speak English. You're just like kind of telling them with kind of like, you know, bootleg sign language that you need him to kill Gabriel. It just wasn't gonna. I don't know where he got that. I probably did say that though. Who knows? I said a lot of weird shit back then. So I talked to Paul, and I don't know where they were getting their money. I mean, I guess I always assumed that maybe his chick was prostituting or something, because they smoked crack and they lived in a motel and didn't get paid. She didn't have any money. They always had crack and they always had heroin, like all the time. And so I was telling Paul that basically all we had to do was start working on this episode, but I needed an editor and I needed someone that knew how to film. And he had made Kill Horse, so I was confident that he could do a show. I mean, it doesn't take like that good of editing skills to make a show like Copbusters. Basically like assembling footage, it's not complicated editing. So anyway, what ends up happening is I try to convince him that if he comes down, it's going to be life-changing. Right? This is what we've always wanted. We're going to be the Matt Damon and Ben Affleck of network television, except we smoke crack and have hepatitis. So what? We'll do like spreads in magazines about us. We'll be like jaundiced. I'm an IV attached to my arm. He thought that was really funny. And, he'd said, Ryan, I don't know, man. I have a pretty good situation here. I have shelter, he's like used to being homeless, and he's like, and we have drugs up here. I don't know. Can you guarantee me like a better situation? I was like, well, I own a house, or I rent a big house. I can give you guys your own room. I sell heroin, so I can give you free heroin all the time. Now, I was done with crack at that point. Paul was like kind of unconvinced or whatever. I was like, you know what? They're coming. They didn't have a car. I was like, I'm coming to get you. Jenny and I got in the car. We went up to Monterey and we saw their situation. And they were, man, I'm talking about a crackhead. Like, there was like holes in the carpet in their motel room from like when they dropped the crack pipe, shit. It was really, 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 really like run down and filthy in their motel room. And I convinced him to come with me. Now, they had just gotten a kitten, It was, her name was Kylie. So they just had a little kitten named Kylie. And that was their thing. They smoked rock, stayed at this motel. She probably prostituted. And they had this like little kitten. And that was like their life. They like put on like holiday themed costumes. They had like, reindeer outfits for this kid. It was ridiculous. I felt bad. The kid was being tortured by these people, by the crackheads. I convinced them to come to Santa Barbara with me. So they come down to Santa Barbara with me. And I mean, Jeff said that I did the same thing to him. Like I promised him, oh yeah, come live with me. I'm selling drugs, and like, you never have to worry about it again. I mean, it's not going to be like, you're having to buy drugs of a drug dealer. I'm your friend. I'll give you free shit. So they come down and they want heroin. I give it to them. And they want more. I was like, yeah, it's going to be $40. They're like, what the fuck? They're like, you sold us a dream. And like, now they had lost their gig at this motel. And I was like, look, man, I run a business. Paul's like, you make like 10 fucking grand a week. What do you mean? And I was like, well, penny saved is a penny earned, buddy. Cough up the money. And so they were really mad, and rightfully so. I like sold them a dream. And of course, we could not get our act together. We could not like ever film. Like Spike was willing to give us a budget to do it, like a full-blown episode instead of just a little pilot. Like a 30-minute real episode. Adam was willing to facilitate that, and I just could not get it together because I was so fucked up on heroin now. So I start suspecting that Paul and his girlfriend Chelsea are stealing from me. Or the cat. The cat's like dressed up like a golfer. You know, has like plaid shorts on, like a little like artist cap or whatever. He's like stealing my balloons of heroin. So, you know, Jenny's suspicious of them and they're kind of acting shady. And she's like, I swear to God, I left a couple balloons out and I think they took it. And I'm like, don't jump to conclusions. Paul's a brother to me. She's like, no. And she was, see, like Jeff would say this, you know, we've talked about it pretty recently. Like she was kind of like the brains of the operation. Well, not the brains. Like I was the visionary. She was like the manager, you know, like I had the vision, but she actually executed the vision and she managed our money. So she really was the brains of the operation. And she was very, you know, I'm like the kind of guy where you could steal from me like we could be talking. You could like steal money out of you could like walk up to me, take my wallet out of my back pocket, start counting the bills, take what you want, and then give it back to me. Be like, here you go, man. I don't fuck with Velcro. I'm like, oh yeah, I do. Oh man, this looks just like my wallet. Thanks, bro. And I just put it in my pocket. I'm that kind of guy. I'm like oblivious to this shit. So Jenny sets up a trap, you know? She puts, I think she put like 4 balloons. She left them on the kitchen counter. Just left them there. And she told me, she's like, hey, don't do this dope. Leave this on the counter. We'll see if they're stealing from us. I was like, all right. Sure enough, a little later that night, balloons go missing. And Jenny tells me, you know, and I have a few pet peeves in life. I hate passive-aggressive people. I hate that. Hate it. Can't be with a chick that's passive-aggressive, you know? You know what I'm talking about. You cheat on her and you get caught and you're like, are you mad, babe? And she's like, I'm not mad. I love you. You know, I'm a little disappointed. I'm not angry though. I'm like, okay. And they put like broken pieces of glass in your soda. You drink it and like your throat just fucking comes open. Your heart. It's a pretty extreme example, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like people that aren't directly confrontational. You know, I don't like confrontation, but if I have a problem with someone, I tell them. You know, I don't really let stuff build up. You know, I've just kind of like learned from the past, especially like in relationships. Like if I have a problem in my relationship, I'm quick to address it. If I think that someone's wronged me, like a friend, I'll confront them on it. I don't like passive aggressiveness. I don't like being lied to. Who does? But I can forgive that. But the thing that I really hate more than anything is being stolen from. I hate thieves. You know, I look at thieves almost like rats. You know, it's like the same shit. Especially like if you're stealing from your friend. And I've had klepto friends that do that. I've had klepto friends that steal from me and then tell me that they stole from me, apologize, give it back, just so they can steal it again. It's how fucking bad of kleptos they are. I have a lot of friends like that. Jeff stole from me. I put a gun in his mouth. I had a falling out with him. Stopped talking to him. That was like my closest fucking, it was like a brother to me. Paul was my second best friend. You know, we're, at one point, Jeff, Paul, and I were like the three amigos. You know, if I was ever going to have a threesome with 2 dudes, it would have been with them. Jeff had already stolen from me, and now Jenny's telling me that she put this stuff out on the counter and that they had stolen from me too. And I was like, I was more hurt than anything, you know, and then they weren't home at the time. You know, they were like, who knows what they were doing? I think they were like bringing cans to the recycling center. Some dope fiend, who knows, you know? because I sold heroin, but I didn't sell cracks. They were still like trying to do the whole crack addiction thing. They came home. They had their little, kitten with them. Their kitten was dressed like a, South Siberian diamond smuggler, whatever theme they had for that day. They come in my like living room. They close the door. And, I just, I don't know, I freaked out, Sorry, that was Mickey's mom texting me. I got to interview Mickey Avalon's mom tonight. So I take a shower. Or I take a shower. That's what she just said. I'm taking a shower. Let's talk after. Jesus Christ. That's how bad my ADD is. So I confront Paul. I'm calm at first. I say, hey, man. You take my heroin? Paul wasn't really a liar. And I'm sure people like that don't really lie, but like they're capable of shady shit like that. Karina's not a liar, but she's capable of shady shit. So, like, she'll do shady shit and then I'll ask her. I'll be like, hey, you just suck off Booby's dick? She's like, yeah, so. I'm like, oh, just wondering. I'm a bitch. Carry on. So I asked Paul, I said, did he steal my heroin? And he's like, no. Sounded just like him. Fucking Paul, I miss my buddy, man. He's like, no. What about you? And Chelsea looks at me, and she looks super convincing, which is scary. You're like, okay, that bitch is a sociopath. Like, did you steal my heroin? She's like, no. Nope. Did you? I'm like, did I steal my own heroin? Yeah, I did. Good question, Chelsea. I said, how about I know that you stole my heroin? How about that? Fucking piece of shit. I'm like, going like that. And Paul's like, Paul can fight too. I mean, Paul and I had gotten in fist fights before, all drunk. Never a bad one until 2015 when I split his head open. But, I start yelling at him. He's flinching. And he's kind of yelling back. Like, it's that kind of thing where, like, he knows that he's caught. So he gets really mad that he's caught. And he's, like, mad at himself, but he's taking it out on me, and I know that. I'm like, you're a fucking punk, dude. Fuck you, bitch. I was like, what's up? If you don't get out of my house, I'm going to fuck you up. And they're like, well, what about our stuff? I was like, I don't give a fuck about your stuff. That's taxes for stealing from me, you pieces of shit. Fucking take you out of your motel crack lifestyle, bring you to this beach house. They're like, dude, it's a block and a half away from the beach. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And I push Paul, right? He pushes me back. Chelsea's like, let's just go. And like Jenny's like getting in between us. So they're like, I'm like literally pushing him out of my house. I'm like, get the fuck out of my house. And his girlfriend like has, their little cat, Kylie. And I just snatched the kitten. Fucking slammed the door. I was like, I'm taking the cat too. Fuck you. And they're just like banging on the door like, give us our cat back. I'm like, nah. Fuck you. Taking your kitten. I'm Satan. Fuck you. I look at Jenny. I'm like, I love you. She's like, I love you too, pumpkin. I'm like, all right. Let's go fuck. Let the kitten watch us. Rip off the kitten's outfit. I'm like, you're free now. Be a kitten. You're not a person. And we will get into Burning Man in the next episode. Jesus, taking longer than I thought, but it's all right. Feeling good. I think I'm going to do prison soon. Probably, maybe tonight. Probably not, though. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to promise shit because then you guys, like, call me names. They come up with my email. I forward them to my parents. I'm like, look what people are saying. And they're like, they're right. You're a slacker. Fuck you. Pay your own cell phone bill. I do. I pay all my own bills now. I'm that guy. I'm boring. I eat Raisin Bran so I don't get constipated. I eat prunes. I'm the old guy that eats prunes now to keep me regular. I have this conversation with the person at the fucking grocery store. They're like, oh, prunes, is this to keep you regular? I was like, it is. It is. See you guys soon. Palabra.